Sometimes we think that when we start talking about purpose, it's a very abstract concept, and we don't actually feel that it is something that we can achieve. But I completely 100% believe that it is something that you can achieve. It's so important for any individual to be able to identify the one thing that they feel that they can do and be great at and be passionate at, and how they can use all their different gifts and talents and skills to help them to get closer to where they're going. If you do not discover your purpose, someone else is not going to benefit from how your purpose was going to impact them. So purpose does not just help you, it helps the person who's also supposed to receive or benefit from the work that you are going to do. And so that is why it is so important for a young person to discover their purpose, for them to live a fulfilled life, and for them to be able to live their legacy to their fullest. My name is Tadziripa Madzima. I'm 35 years old, and I am the founder of Ignite Youth Organization. I'm also a 2018 Mandela Washington Fellow. So I have two boys. The first one is 8 years old, and the second one is 3 years old. Both of them are very unique and very different in so many ways. My firstborn is actually autistic on the far spectrum. And just having such a child, it re-emphasizes to me the need for us as parents to be able to identify our children's gifts and talents early on, and why purpose in itself is so important, and why it's so important to help each child to discover why they're here, their purpose, their passion, their interests, because every child is going to be different and unique in their own way. I grew up in a single parent family. My mother was a single mom. My father passed away when I was only 5 years old. So practically I was reared by my mother all of my life. And just growing up in those kind of circumstances, they came with their own challenges. My mother was a very hardworking woman. She was always focused on making sure that she's putting food on the table. And because of that, there were moments in my life where I found that even if I wanted to talk to her about some of the challenges I was facing as a young person, at those moments I felt as if I would actually be disturbing her, or I would be taking her away from focusing on what she needed to do. And so at that time, I felt very much as if, as a young person, I was a bit confused about what I wanted to do with my life as well. And I was not very sure about the direction that I was going to take. But one thing I knew for sure is that I wanted to make my mother proud because of all that I had seen her going through, all the work that she had done to take care of me and my siblings. And at that time, I think what added to my confusion was that at school, there was quite a bit of pressure to do law. I was in the arts classes, so it was almost a default to be expected to do law. And at that point, I was not very sure if I wanted to do law. I had quite a number of interests. I was also interested a bit in international relations. I was also a bit interested in art and graphic design. So not also feeling very comfortable to go to my mother and speak to her made it also very complicated for me to have a clear direction on what I wanted to do. There were a lot of voices. There was my own voice. There was my mother's voice. There was my teacher's voice, my friends' voices. All of that was playing a big part in me trying to make a decision in terms of what I wanted to do. So after I finished my A-levels, I was definitely very much still passionate about doing art because that was something that I loved doing. But I also was at the same time thinking of doing law. So it was a confusing time for me. The fact that I was struggling to really be able to identify what I wanted to do made it very difficult for me, and I felt isolated for a while until I joined a youth ministry at my church. And when I joined the youth ministry, I found that I had now found people that I could speak to, other young people that I could relate with, other young people that were also going through challenges that were similar to what I was doing. And the church that I was going to had a very strong focus on purpose, and that inspired me a lot in helping me to begin to find my direction, because I not only was focusing on networking with other young people, but I was also learning. I now had access to mentors. I now had access to pastors that were now helping me, especially when it comes to finding my purpose. And that is what really encouraged me along my journey. I went to Harare Poly and I did art, fine art for a year. And then after that, during that time, I then worked my way into the advertising industry and became a graphic designer. And I was very good at what I was doing in terms of graphic design. And I kept rising up the ladder of graphic design. I started off as studio manager. I went on to becoming a creative director. And that's how quickly I rose up the ladder. But during that time, I was also actually studying international law and relations. And it came from a feeling dissatisfied with my own career choice. I felt that graphic design was not something that I could be really proud of or tell people that I'm a graphic designer. I felt that it's not something that I could really make my mother proud of me, to tell her that I'm now a graphic designer. So I was doing international relations and law to make her proud. So I did it, and it helped me, and it still is helping me in my present career. But during that time of confusion as a young person, and because it was such a lengthy period of time, all those experiences that I faced is what drove me to start Ignite Youth Organization. It was only after a couple of years of working in the marketing and advertising industry that I began to see that this is something that I am passionate about and something that I'm very good at. And I eventually became comfortable with it. But as a young person, I never saw it as a viable career choice. And so with all those experiences, I realized that many young people in our country are struggling to find the right career choices, either because they are not getting enough support at home, or they feel that they're comparing what they want to do or their skills with other young people and thinking that, well, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think that what I want to do is compared to this person who wants to be an engineer or a doctor. So with those kind of experiences, I felt that there needed to be a forum or a platform for young people where they're encouraged to pursue their talents, their gifts, and a place which nurtures their gifts and talents. And so with that in mind, and with my own personal experiences, and because of something that I was very passionate about, since it's something I also personally grew up feeling, this is how I ended up starting Ignite Youth Organization. When I created Ignite Youth Organization, it was from looking at the experience I had growing up and how I felt isolated, and how that shifted the minute I became a part of a group of people that could help me, that gave me access to mentors, that could support me. That shifted and helped me tremendously. And it helped me to find an outlet, a place where I could get the support that I needed. And with Ignite Youth Organization, the goal was not to make it a denominational initiative, because I felt that young people, irrespective of which religion they are part of, which society they come from, they all struggle with this one component of not knowing what they want to do with their lives. And so I wanted to make sure that Ignite actually cuts across different barriers, where it's not based on which church you attend, where it's not based on which school you go to, but it is just an organization that is supporting a young person based on the need that they have, which is where they want to go with their lives and what they want to do with their lives. Just learning that there's a key component that being a part of a group is important, that will support you, and having access to mentors is important. For me, it was about breaking across the barriers of groups, of backgrounds, whether you come from Chitungwiza, whether you come from Marlborough. We are bringing the young people together and cutting across denominations, cutting across society, communities. Whether you are Ndebele, whether you are Shona, there is that need for you to discover your purpose. We started in March 2018, and it started off with only about 5 young people coming. And we started off with just membership meetings. Then with time, we started having more events. We started providing more programs that provide a more holistic approach to youth development, where we are sort of looking at a young person in a 360 spectrum. When we're talking about purpose and about helping a young person, channeling them towards the proper direction in their lives, we cannot look at just one area and say that this is enough. We have to look at a young person in their entirety. What are their habits? What are their attitudes, their behaviors? What are the choices that they are making in their lives? Are they struggling with depression? Are they struggling with anxiety? What are some of the issues that they are facing that are confidence-based, self-confidence issues? And so it was a lot of things to look at, and that is why we had to create quite a diverse number of programs that aimed at helping young people, choose the right career choice, and at the same time develop to be wholesome individuals. Because we're not just looking at helping them to create an income or to find a job. We're helping them to develop the right characteristics and attitudes that are necessary to carry them through in life to the place where they need to be successful. So for us, it is a 360 approach to youth development, and where we look at different aspects of a young person's development. And so though we started out with 5 young people, in the months to come, we grew at a very fast rate. We grew to about 400 youth at the end of 2018. We were about 400 youth members, and by then we had reached about 2,000 to 3,000 youth through our events. And because we had such a diverse array of programs, the young people felt that they were developing a lot of skills. They were developing leadership skills. They were developing soft skills like team building skills, and they were also developing hard skills. They were also learning how do you put together a proper CV if you're looking for a job? How do you identify the career path that you're supposed to take? How do you bring your skills, your talents, your gifts together to help you to find the right career path for yourself? So all these were things that the young people were developing for themselves. And many of the young people that come to Ignite Youth Organization by default actually were coming from underserved communities, ghetto areas in Zimbabwe. And we felt that we needed to do a survey to try and understand why many of our youth were coming from those areas. And we discovered that for them, through the survey that we did among the youth that were coming to our program, for many of them, there was no access to career guidance services in their schools. They were not getting access to career guidance support in schools. And so having a place which helped them to direct themselves in which way to go was critical for them. And so for us, it became a bigger cause because we also wanted to make sure that young people in those areas are also receiving the same resources and opportunities as other young people. So for us, we do have young people. Many of our young people come from Glenview, Mudiriro, Mufakosi, Mabvuku. Those are the ghetto areas in our country, and you find that this is where most of the young people come from, and they show a big excitement in what we do. And so when we saw that the program was doing so well in Harare, we decided to launch it in Bulawayo. And so we currently are serving about 200 youth in Bulawayo. And so the program has now grown a lot as well in Bulawayo. And our next steps as an organization is to launch it in Mutare, so that we have touched at least Mashonaland, Manyikaland, and Matebeleland, where we're actually getting a lot of young people saying, when are you coming to our city? When are you coming to our city? Because we actually realize that it is quite a big need in our country in terms of how are we helping young people to go in the right direction in terms of their career paths. We discovered that most of the young people who were coming were passionate about creative arts, sports, and entrepreneurship. And so we ended up having those 3 specific programs because many of them were passionate about how do I create a career, for example, as a musician, or how do I create a career as a sportsman, or how do I create a business, how do I make a business, a successful business. And they felt that many of the young people that were passionate about these 3 areas felt that they were not getting support for them to pursue these specific areas as career paths from either family, from friends, from school. And so that's why our programs had such a big focus on the creative arts, on the sports, and on the business component, because we wanted to help these young people to be able to get the skills they need to succeed within those 3 areas. We look at a young person with a 360 approach of what are the things the habits that you're doing that could be detrimental to you succeeding. What are the attitudes? What are the things that you're struggling with that could stop you from reaching your fullest potential, from you getting to where you want to go? Because just having a passion is not enough. There are a lot of habits, behaviors you have to nurture, you have to build in order for you to get to where you need to go. We're looking at a young person in their entirety, and how are we helping young people to get closer to where they are supposed to be, especially when it comes to their purpose. So we focus on the age group of 13 to 29 years. And what we have done is we have divided them into groups. So the teenagers have got a specific program designed for them specifically. It could be the same program, creative arts or business, but it's tailor-made for the age group. And then from 20 to 25, we have a tailor-made program as well. And then 25 to 29, we have another tailor-made program. Although currently we have been attracting a lot of the 18 to 25-year-old gap. That is our biggest group. And we feel that that is mostly being driven by the fact that many young people, right after they finish high school, they're quite still confused about what they want to do. So for them, it is that period of, if I finished my A-levels, now what do I do? Where do I go? Which direction do I take? And so we find that many of them at that stage, they find Ignite as a solitude or a place where they can go and find some support to help them to go in the right direction. And we also have quite a number of other university students as well who come in, and we also help them to work around how whatever they are studying can still fit into the bigger spectrum of what they're supposed to do or what they want to do with their lives. This is how we also help young people to identify that they do not necessarily need to drop out of school. They can finish high school, they can finish their university, but it's about how do you bring what you learned to fit into the career path that you're supposed to take or go in your life. Ignite Youth Organization, we have different activities that we do in order for us to engage the young people. We go into schools, high schools. We run what is called a Live Your Legacy program in high schools, where we partner with, for example, debate clubs, interact clubs, and then we use those platforms to talk about purpose to young people and how they can discover their purpose and why it's important. And through those Live Your Legacy outreaches, we get a lot of young people coming and joining the organization from there. We then also do a lot of workshops and events around the programs that we do, business entrepreneurship workshops, training workshops. We also make sure that we bring experts. For example, for our creative arts program, we have an activity called Meet an Artist, where an artist who is upcoming or who is succeeding or doing well comes and speaks to the young people to encourage them to pursue their careers. And so all these activities that we do, business entrepreneurship workshops, training workshops, leadership training workshops, we also do camps. All these activities that we do is where we get our young people. And so many of the young people have heard of us through their friends, through the events that we do, and also through social media. So we have 4 social media pages. The most vibrant of them is the Instagram account, and rightfully so, because many young people are on Instagram. And so many of the young people inquire about us through our Instagram accounts. They also inquire about us through Facebook, through Twitter. And so these are some of the channels that they use to communicate to us. They also, sometimes they send us inquiries through WhatsApp directly to find out about the work that we do. Our approach to career guidance is a little bit, for some people it's unconventional. It could be seen as unconventional because we are not necessarily looking at whether a young person is good at art, sciences or commercials as it is in schools. We're looking at whether a young person, what are their gifts and their talents and what are their interests. In fact, when we do an induction, we ask young people to write their eulogy. What would your obituary say when you die? What would you want it to say? And so many times when we've asked young people to write that, they're talking about how they want to build hospitals, or how they want to travel the world, or how they want to impact communities, or how they want to come up with a tech solution to a disease that is affecting the world in some way. And you find sometimes that it is not linked in any way to what they're studying. And so it really does bring a very unconventional approach to education. And so because of that, we sometimes get resistance from teachers in terms of your approach is not really going to help children in any way, because the focus of our current education system is that we identify what a child is good at academically, and then we channel them as in that way. And we are not looking at it in that way. We're looking at it from the point of, what does a young person want to do at the end of their life? What would they want people to say about them? And then we use that to bring all their gifts and talents to see how that can work for their greater purpose and desire. Our office as an organization is my home. And I've opened up my home for meetings. This is where we do all our meetings. This is where we do all our planning. And also this is a place where I also use it as sort of like a safe haven for many of the young people who are struggling with depression or who are just feeling low. Many of them come here. They get access to people who come and speak to them. There's a life coach, there's a counselor, just someone who's an expert who can speak to them. I myself do also encourage them. I help them the best way that I can, and I encourage them in the best way that I can. So this place is more than just an office. It's like a home. It's a home for the young people where they feel they're accepted, they're loved, they're wanted, and where they just feel free to be themselves. We have success stories of parents who have seen the benefits of how the program has helped their own children. We recently had a girl called Dion who wanted to pursue tech entrepreneurship, and we were supporting her in a big way to write her application, submit her applications, and so far she has been selected for the Tony Elumelu Foundation entrepreneurship competition. She was also selected recently for Tech for Women competition, which she participated in. And so her parents are extremely happy and excited to see that their child is doing so well in something that she is passionate about. And we also bring the parents testimonies the parents who have seen the impact of the work that we do and how it's helping their children. We have used those testimonials as a way of encouraging other parents to see the benefits of bringing their children and the youth to Ignite Youth Organization. So this has been a challenge for us. In terms of education itself, because we are now working in schools, what we are doing is working together with schools. And we have made it clear that we are not trying to get young people to stop learning. We believe that education builds an important foundation in a young person's life, and it's important. However, we see ourselves as a support to the education system, that we are also in support to the education system, but we are bringing in a different approach. We are helping a young person to think about it in a bigger spectrum, as in, if they were to leave this earth, what have they done? Has it been meaningful? Has it been the thing that they were passionate about? Was it the thing that they wanted to do from the get-go? And so for us now, we're working very closely with teachers, and so that they also see that we are not necessarily coming to overthrow a system, but coming to work together to build the system. So we've been getting into schools, and so far we have reached about 5 schools. And how we have done the school's outreaches has been through the young people themselves, because they're so passionate about giving back and making sure that the other young people who are still at the schools they went to get to learn about what we do at an earlier point in their lives than they did. So what they do as Ignite members is that they go to the schools that they used to attend, and they approach their teachers and they introduce Ignite Youth Organization on our behalf, and they actually speak about Ignite Youth Organization and represent the organization themselves to their teachers, to their former teachers. And so once that happens, they then organize a meeting with the teacher. We then have an opportunity to sit with the teacher and to talk about the work that we do and what we're trying to achieve. And from there onwards, we then agree on what kind of activity we're going to do in the school, which clubs we're going to work with to implement the activities. One of the biggest challenges we face is funding the programs that we do, especially in the economy that we're running in, where it's extremely turbulent, especially when it comes to cost of living. It's very unpredictable for many of the young people. So it affects us in a big way, in where sometimes you find that young people are able to attend. They might not be able to attend a program because they do not have bus fee. They do not have enough bus fee to come to the events, or that, they probably are trying to find money for food. It might seem absolutely crazy, but it can be that bad that a young person has not slept, has not eaten for days, and so is not able to come to a program because of that. And so for us, it affects us in terms of not just attendance, but it also affects us in terms of the mental health of the young people. They would be struggling to engage in what we want to do, because there are so many economic challenges that they're also facing personally. As much as we have tried to get the young people to pay some kind of a contribution, a subscription to the organization, we are not able to sustain it because of the fact that the prices are always changing, the cost of living is always changing. And so what we are putting as subscriptions at the beginning is not sustainable. And we also cannot expect young people who come from these communities to be able to afford subscriptions that are always increasing on a monthly basis. So what we're doing now is we're no longer putting pressure on young people in terms of subscriptions, and we're not relying on subscriptions as an organization. What we have done now is that we've created different packages that are like partnership packages that we're using as a way to raise money for ourselves. We also go into the communities. So when we started out last year, we'd have a central place in town where we would say we're doing an event. But because now we've identified the majority of where the young people are coming from, we go to the communities where they are at, whether it's Glenview, Mapuku, and we do events there. That way we cut out the cost of transport, where they're expected to actually travel into town for a workshop or an event. And so when we go to the communities themselves, that eliminates the aspect of them having to actually use transport money to travel to town in order for them to attend a workshop. Through the US Embassy, they've also provided a space in town for Mandela Washington Fellows to use. It's called B2C co-working space. And so that co-working space is a space that is available to Mandela Washington Fellows to use for workshops. And so it also has cut back on our costs in terms of hiring venues, etc. In our girls program, we also support teenage moms. And that's extremely important for us as we're working with young people. We bump into young girls who fell pregnant at a young age, and we actually discover that this group of girls is very discouraged about their lives. Most of the time, they do not think that once they have had children, that they can see a future for themselves. They usually give up on life. Even discussing about a purpose for them is such a foreign concept, and it's so far-sighted for them that they do not see it happening. So a focus on teenage moms is important for us because we feel that we want to give them that hope again. We want to ignite that hope in them again so that they can see that they are able to still live their purpose to their fullest. They're still able to reach their potential. They're still able to reach their goals, and we help them to regain their confidence again. So we do this through a variety of workshops that are targeted at helping these teenage moms. So it's again hard skills and soft skills training, giving them opportunities for them to learn hard skills, ways in which that they can make money for themselves, such as hairdressing, tailor making, and anything, even farming, ways in which that they can create an income for themselves. They can also get into beauty. So we teach them various things. And at the same time, because their confidence is so broken, we work on helping them to regain their confidence in themselves so that they're able to once again reintegrate back into society, feel like they are a part of a group of people that is welcoming, and that their contribution is still valid and wanted and valuable. Our overall goal is to have a center where we have all the young people services being provided at that center. So whether it is mental health, whether mental health services, whether it is support with depression, anxiety, counselors, workshops, trainings, and also where they can also exercise fitness and play sports. That is the goal that we have, that ultimately we should have this center which provides these services for young people. And we're not we're not looking at having the center in Harare. We're looking at having it in one of the cities or towns where we feel the center is needed the most, and where we also feel it would be good to bring some recognition and support and opportunities to that town. And so it's very important for us to look at other places besides Harare where we can have this center.